Jobs. One of the most annoying things about being a human. And I define a job as something you do because you think you have to get a paycheck in order to have the bare necessities of life. A job without a passion is like is like a mind without its dreams. It's despicable. It's right up there with bad karmic relationships and bad ancestral families. But it has actually tremendous amount of fear attached to it because you think you have to work. It's, some of the ones who are going to come to their realization first will have gone beyond the whole concept of needing a job. And yes, it's frightening because you say, oh, well, how am I going to pay the bills? Well, that's where the new relationship with energy comes in. First of all, you don't have any bills. And secondly, it's all there for you. And third, you find that you love to do things, and you don't consider it a job or work in the old sense, like I always joke about being a mid-level manager in a cubicle. I mean, to me, the worst thing in the world. I'd rather be a peasant than that. I'd rather be able to breathe fresh air than to breathe recycled air within a building. But the ones that are going to go through first are going to realize that they do something in trade for energy because they love doing it, not because they need a job. And it's going to be a frightening chasm for some to cross in realizing they've got to get out of that restriction, that prison. Now, there are many Shambro who have jobs, and they truly love them. They like going to work. They like the interaction with other people. They love what they do at work. That's fine. That's beautiful and perfect. Just negotiate a higher salary. Ooh, Caldra's getting upset with me on that. But he's saying negotiate a higher salary because you're worth it. But the old job, what do you call it, 9 to 5 or whatever? No, it's you'll not see any embodied masters doing that. Mm-mm. Right now, for those who are working, 40% of the people that work are considering leaving their jobs. That's a high level of dissatisfaction. So 40% are considering leaving their jobs. Over 80% of workers on the planet really don't like their job. Maybe they're not considering leaving, but they simply don't like their job. They put up with it because they get a paycheck. But if you're not getting an equal portion of joy to the money you're receiving, do something else. Look at some of the things that are happening with the coronavirus, kind of as offshoots of the economic issue. But we had a lot of people sitting at home for a long time, and not able to go to their jobs, not having a job. And suddenly they realized how much they didn't like that job, how much they were stuck in a pattern. You're going to find a lot of people emerging out of this and saying, I'm not going back to that. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going back to that. That's beautiful. Maybe they'll be spurred by their creativity, their intelligence to start a business or find a job that they really do like rather than the one they thought they were supposed to have. Very first job ever. Very first job was a soldier. A soldier. Now, you can argue, and I hear some of you saying a prostitute. That came later. You had to have soldiers in order to have prostitutes. So it was a soldier. And the very first real assigned tasks, now called jobs, were the soldiers in the forces of Azira Timu in the latter days of Atlantis. As a result of soldiers, it brought the second jobs, almost came hand in hand with the soldiers, and it was slaves. Slaves. Slaves became commonplace for over 100,000 years after that. The conquering armies would overcome another country, another culture, and take slaves. The specific work of the slaves was to do the menial tasks, the hard work, the building of buildings and bridges and and fortresses and monuments and statues and hauling water and doing all the other grunt work. Then after that, as the agrarian society began to take place around the world, as people began to farm rather than to be nomadic, then farming became the next job, you could say, but typically small family type of farms until the Industrial Revolution came around in the mid to late 1800s. And at that point, people moved from the farms because of the hard work. They moved from the farms into the city and took on industrial jobs. They worked in factories and plants. And in a way, it was a little bit easier life because there were more conveniences. You were closer to other people. You had stores and shops right close by. You had cities that were growing with things like plumbing and ultimately electricity. So there was a lot of reasons for people to move off the farms and into the cities. Shortly after World War II, we saw another shift. This shift now more towards office-type jobs, management, administration, and it gave birth to something that wasn't really so common back then, but executives and MBAs. And executives sat behind the big desk. They used to wear white shirts and ties, and they would direct other things. They would be executive, and they thought they were pretty important, and they got paid quite a bit of money, a lot more than the laborers in the factories that they were executing. In the last decade or so, last 2 decades, have given rise to yet another category, and a category that's emerging very quickly right now, growing faster than any of the other job categories across the planet, and that is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur. Because these days, you can set up a business just about anywhere, at least in the free countries of the world. You can set up a business just about anywhere without much capital or overhead. You can set up a business in your living room. And using technology, using modern distribution resources, and using a little bit of creativity on your own part, you can make things in your living room and ship them all around the world. Now you're your own business person, responsible for your own fate and your own success. So that's pretty much where we are with jobs. If you feel into this old concept of the workplace, there will be millions of jobs lost to robots. Is that good news or bad news? It depends what your job is. I'll give you a clue. If you have a creative job, a job that requires creativity at some level, you'll be fine. If you have a menial manual job, you're going to be replaced by a robot. Yeah, who's going to be smarter and faster, doesn't call in sick, doesn't give the boss any grief. So maybe that sounds good. But remember, humans define themselves by their jobs, by their work. You know, you ask a human right now, an elderly person, oh, so what's your life been like? They're going to define their schooling, their family upbringing, and their work. To take that away, to take work away, is going to be kind of interesting. And robots will displace many, many, many things around the planet. And I ask you to welcome that because it's taking the menial tasks away, the tasks that weren't fun, weren't filled with any sort of joy. There was no creativity. And every job should have creativity and joy in it, and a feeling of whether it's success or accomplishment, but you should feel good about it. How can you feel good about stuffing boxes into other boxes just so people can get the box and get the one box out of the other box and then throw the boxes away? How can you feel good about that? But those are the jobs that robots can handle. So it raises the question, should you get paid for the work that you do? Or should you get paid for just being a human? Should you have a basic pay, and then if you want to work hard and go out of your way, you can make even more? These are some of the biggest questions facing all countries on the planet right now. People aren't going to go back to the offices, or they'll say they'll only go back in once a week. They're going to work from home and refuse to go back, and the employers don't have much of a choice right now because there's a shortage of workers. It's going to change the entire landscape of working. And ultimately, it's going to do something, no matter what you call it, but a universal basic income, a distribution of the planet's wealth with everyone on an equitable basis. If you're rich or if you're poor, you get the same amount as everyone else. And if you want to work more, you want to work harder, you can do that. If you want to sit on the beach drinking, what do you drink? Mai Tais on the beach, you can do that.